I'm not talk about it. You have to. No. Yes. The Caribbean has many creative names for it, from the less offensive like chichi, bula, fish, to the more obscene One thing for sure, for better or for worse, Jamaica no deal with that. But here's the thing, this isn't a show about life in Jamaica, and sooner or later I had to talk about the dark horse, the immigrant, and the case of homosexuality. Welcome everybody, I'm Andre Beckford and this is Rome in a Day. This is a very touchy subject to the Jamaican diaspora, and it's a controversial one for us too. Growing up Jamaican, there was one thing everybody knew. Don't go around, don't associate, and don't you dare become homosexual. This can result in serious injuries or in some cases, death. When you go to church, and Jamaica is a very, very religious country, we talk about blasphemy, the unpardonable sin. But in Jamaica, really, there is only one sin. You know what I'm talking about. Now, growing up in Jamaica, like many other Jamaicans, I had the mundane point of view that if you came around somebody who was homosexual, you stood the chance of being a homosexual by extension of your friends. I, at one point in my life, unfortunately thought that if you were a homosexual, you were less than a human being. This is the viewpoint of a lot of Jamaicans. Unfortunately, I'm still in a certain mindset because, growing up, I was an adult in Jamaica. That mindset has somewhat refused to leave. And now, as I grew, more access to the internet, cable, traveling, while I was also living in a part of the country that is a tourism mecca, St. Anne, closer to Ocherius, my views were way more liberal, if you wanna use that term. Moving to America, my views definitely took some time to change, especially when I was in New York. If you've ever been in New York, you know that that's a part of the country that doesn't care about anything as long as you can make them $1. You can live your life, you can do what you want, and trust me, New Yorkers live their life. It was a culture shock, to say the least. I have never been placed in a situation where anybody can do as they please, live as they please, dress as they please. And New York is definitely that as you please state. Now, I remember when I got my first job in New York City as a library aide, and I'll go a bit deeper into that discussion in another episode. But I remember that was the first time I interacted and worked with an openly gay person. She was a lesbian, and it was a bit weird because I've never been in this situation. The funny thing is, she turned out to be my work best friend at the time, which was hilarious actually, because we had a lot of things in common, a lot of the same sense of humor, the same likes for a bunch of different stuff. That friendship ended because she took me to tea for her money, and she found out that I didn't steal her money, but I already moved on. Anyways, next topic. Another story time. I'm not calling her name. I'll just say this is a family member. If they're watching, they probably know themselves, but anyways, not calling the name. In this same time when I just moved to New York, I met a cousin of mine who, she was a lesbian as well. I didn't know that at the time. No, I went down with some of my other cousins, some of my other family members down to where she lived, and it was in the Christmas time, so which is my favorite time of year. Now, she was living with this other female who, at the time, old naive me thought that it was her best friend. So everything that they did together, I mean, at a point I thought that, hey man, these best friends are really best friends. They move a little close for best friends. I mean, it was an expensive part of the country. You live with your best friend, you split the rent, you split the bathroom, you split the bedroom, you split the car, you split the bills. Now I remember I was at the party. It was a Christmas party. And one of the guys there was staring at my cousin's friend. And I realized this and I thought to myself, hey, this guy is probably flirting. He probably wants some Christmas presents, you know? So while we were in the kitchen, just me and the friend and some other people away from the guy, I looked at her and I was like, hey, don't you see the brother was staring at you? You look like he was flirting with you. Like, what you gonna do? And she looked at me and she said, that brother man knows I don't roll that way. And I mean, how naive I was at the time. Like, really? I can't believe, like, that never did click in my head. Like, me just couldn't understand how that never click. But I don't remember what happened, but it came to a point where I said something to one of my cousins, and the cousin said to me, don't you know that so and so is a lesbian? And I was like, what? And then she said, don't you know that her so and so friend is her wife? And I was like, what? God, I was so stupid. Hey, I came to this country naive, man. I was naive. But it turned out like that was my major introduction of the LGBTQ community. So that was my LGBTQ RSTPM. So that was my introduction to the LGBTQ community. Is that what do you call them now? That was my introduction. LGBTQ 101. Now, since in a love story, I have another story. I go to church. I go to church on Saturdays, which I call Sabbaths because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And I remember talking to one of my friends at that church, and the topic of it was another Jamaican immigrant as well. This church was Jamaican heavy. And the focus of the discussion was on homosexuality, as it was not the only sin. As at least I would like to think that it's not the only sin, even though Christians treat it like the only sin. But I remember this friend, they were cool with everything else. Adultery, fornication, stealing, killing. All of that could be forgiven. They were fine with the gunman. They were fine with the thief. They were fine with everything else. But as soon as the gays came in for salvation, fire and brimstone lightning. No, as we kept talking, the friend realized the fault in their argument as a Christian. And they said they would accept them, but they still don't want the gay them to bring them nastiness into the church. I guess they were going to a different side of hell or something like that. Listen, ask any other immigrant. When you come to America in particular, no matter what prestige you had back home, you are no longer in your country. You no longer run things. You might think you run things, but you know run things. I'm a no Jamaican, think we run things. Me think me run things. But enough time me only run things in my head. You know we not run things. what do I think? So, I know what you want to know. What is my take? Here it is. It does not matter what I think. I'm not here to tell you what you should do or what you should not do with your sexuality. But I will say this. I'm a happily married man, and none of you know my personal business. My personal business does not affect you. It does not affect your life. I've worked with all types of people from all types of places and all orientations. And I mean all orientations. Trust me, I lived in New York City. And some of the best people I've ever worked with, some of the most hardworking people, some of the most dedicated workers were gay. And guess what? Them never infect me. Have your house in order. Worry about how your life affects others. And to the Christian community of immigrants, which I am a part of, focus on what Jesus wants for you and what he would do. Like really, what would he do? And if that doesn't make an impact on your negative opinion at all, here's the one thing. I know none of your business. You're not in Jamaica anymore. You're not in Trinidad anymore. You're not in Nigeria anymore. Fill in the blanks. And the quicker you realize that, the lower your stress level gets. This ain't your country, boy! Oh my God. But, me don't know still. Me just talk the thing them what we don't want to talk about. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think of this topic. Tell me what you think of the channel. Tell me some other things you'd like me to talk about. I do take advice. If you have any ideas that could make this better, the studio setup, the lighting, the framing, the language, anything. And please, be nice. I'm talking to you specific Jamaicans. Be nice in the comments, please. But until next time, roam good.